I had some data for Canada. These are quarterly births and deaths from 2000 to 2025. I think Canada also has quite large population
Yes.
migration. And what we see is very seasonal births and deaths, which we expect particularly in a cold climate. But when we want to look in and we see births are rising, fairly stable, start dropping, we see a big drop in births somehow in 2020. I don't know how to explain that because most of the babies born in 2020 should have been conceived in 2019, which was still a normal year. And we see a spike in births in 2021, probably because people were locked down and had fun. And they're followed by dropping births. But 2025, there appears to be a rise in births again. We have to look at the overall trending because this spike may be followed by another drop. But the key thing for Canada is the vaccine rollout. We don't see an immediate spike in deaths, but we see a spike in deaths in late 2021 and into 2022. And the rise in deaths is sustained.
Interesting. I wonder the correlation between our booster programs. There's a question for us to dive into at some point, is because we certainly had reports of higher death rates with boosters than the initial injection. So that could explain the more dramatic rise later.
Yeah, I have seen that there's a difference in different socioeconomic status countries and the timing of the death. And higher socioeconomic status countries, I see that the deaths come more specifically with the booster rollout, whereas in lower socioeconomic countries, I see that the deaths have spiked, particularly with the primary rollout.
Interesting.
This may be due to maybe less health resilience amongst people in lower socioeconomic countries. It may be related to healthcare access in those countries, or it may be that they've been given different batches of vaccines that were more specifically toxic, because many of those countries got their vaccines via Gavi and the WHO. They didn't get them from the commercial market. Yeah. So I suspect that they were quite different batches delivered to different countries. Okay, so this is Canada's overall trending, annual births, deaths, and natural increase. So Canada's peak population growth year in terms of natural population was 2009, when you had 146,000 population growth. That's here. And now you're down in 2024 to only around 20,000 natural population growth. So you've had a dramatic drop in population growth, which in the case of Canada is primarily driven by rising deaths rather than dramatically falling births. And I think that may be related to migration, that most migrants tend to be in their late 20s, and maybe starting their families. So they hide the overall pattern.
That makes sense. But clearly the death, again, increased death, consistent in the last few years, clearly worse 22, 23, 24 than 2020, the famous year of the virus.
Yeah, so it's a step change. It's a step change across every country that I've looked at. There's we say BC before COVID, and then we have AC after COVID. Wow. And the population trending is completely different.
So fairly consistently, the onset of the injection campaigns is that inflection point where you have a new rate of death that stays higher following that so far for the years that intervene.
And we have a accelerating rate of falling births.